Harvest Delight, written by Lara, Replica, artwork by Takia, Mann, and published by Daniel from mythicmasters.org.za. The picnic scene. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden glow over the sprawling fields. The late summer warmth lingered in the air, mingling with the first crisp hints of autumn. A light breeze rustled the leaves of nearby trees, carrying the scent of ripe fruit and freshly baked bread. The rolling hills stretched endlessly, dotted with neat rows of cypress trees that stood tall like sentinels watching over the land. On a grassy knoll overlooking the valley, a colorful blanket was spread out, laden with the season's finest offerings. A woven basket, filled to the brim with peaches, grapes, and apricots, sat in the center, surrounded by crusty loaves of bread and a bottle of red wine. The scene looked like a painting brought to life, a perfect moment suspended in time. Two friends sat side by side on the blanket, soaking in the serene beauty of the landscape. It was an annual tradition for them, a way to mark the end of summer and welcome the fall. "Amazing how everything looks like it's glowing this time of year," said Mia, her gaze fixed on the horizon. She was the thoughtful one, always observing the little details that others might overlook. Her long hair cascaded down her back, shimmering like the golden fields below. "Yeah," replied Leo, taking a deep breath and savoring the aroma of the fresh bread. He was the lively one, always full of energy and ready to turn even the simplest moment into an adventure. "You picked the perfect day for this, Mia. I can't believe it's already the end of summer." Mia smiled, reaching for a plump peach from the basket. "It feels like the whole year flew by, doesn't it? But I love this time of year. It's like nature's grand finale before the quiet of winter." Leo nodded in agreement. "Exactly, and I'm glad we get to spend it together like this. It's our little tradition now." He raised his glass of wine, offering a playful toast. "To another year of harvest delight." Mia laughed, clinking her glass with his. "To harvest delight," she echoed. They both took a sip, letting the rich flavor of the wine warm their throats. The sweetness of the grapes, paired with the slight tartness of the wine, felt like the perfect taste of summer's farewell and autumn's arrival. Leo reached into the basket and pulled out a cluster of deep purple grapes. "Remember last year when we did this?" he asked, popping a grape into his mouth. "We almost got caught in that storm. We had to run all the way back to the car." Mia chuckled, recalling the memory. "I do. I still can't believe how quickly that storm came in. One moment we were basking in the sun, and the next we were drenched. But it was kind of fun, don't you think?" "Definitely," Leo grinned. "I remember you were laughing the whole way back. You said it was like we were kids again, splashing in puddles." Mia's eyes softened at the memory. "I guess that's why I love this picnic so much," she said quietly. "It's like a time capsule for us. Every year we get to add a new memory, a new story." Leo nodded, his expression turning thoughtful. "Yeah, it's special, isn't it? No matter what's going on in our lives, we always make time for this. It's like our little promise to each other." The two friends fell into a comfortable silence, listening to the soft rustle of leaves and the distant hum of insects. It was moments like this, simple, quiet moments shared with someone you care about, that felt truly timeless. The sun continued its slow descent, casting long shadows over the valley. The landscape seemed to glow, bathed in hues of orange and pink, as if the world itself were celebrating this peaceful moment. Mia set her glass down and leaned back on her hands, tilting her face up to the sky. "You ever wonder what it'll be like years from now?" she asked, her voice barely louder than a whisper. "Will we still be doing this when we're old and gray?" Leo grinned, plucking an apricot from the basket. "I hope so. Can you imagine us, two old folks sitting out here sharing a bottle of wine and reminiscing about all the silly things we did in our youth?" Mia laughed, the sound light and musical. "I can imagine it perfectly," she said, her eyes crinkling at the corners. "And I wouldn't have it any other way." The two friends shared a smile, the kind that spoke of years of shared experiences and the comfort of a bond that only deepened with time. The picnic was a testament to their friendship, a moment of pure joy and connection, held close in their hearts as the seasons changed around them. A toast to friendship. The sun dipped lower, casting a warm, golden light over the valley. The world seemed to shimmer in the glow of the fading day, like a scene painted in hues of gold, peach, and crimson. Mia and Leo, caught in this fleeting moment of beauty, raised their glasses once more. To us, Leo said with a grin, his voice light but filled with sincerity. To all the memories we've made and the ones we've yet to make. To us, Mia echoed, her eyes gleaming with the same fondness. They clinked glasses again, the sound like a delicate chime, a small but significant note in the symphony of their friendship. As they sipped the wine, Mia let her gaze wander over the landscape, her thoughts drifting back to the many moments they'd shared over the years. "Do you remember our first picnic here?" she asked, a nostalgic smile playing on her lips. Leo chuckled, nodding as he leaned back on his elbows. "How could I forget? We were just teenagers back then. I think we packed more snacks than we could carry." "And you insisted on bringing your mom's fancy tablecloth." Mia laughed, shaking her head at the memory. "Yes, and you teased me about it the entire time, but you have to admit it looked nice." "It did," Leo admitted. "It was the first time I realized how much you value these little moments, the way you always put in that extra effort to make everything special." Mia blushed slightly, looking down at the peach in her hand. "I guess I've always believed in making memories that last," she said softly. "Even when life gets busy or things change, it's moments like these that we can hold on to." Leo reached for a handful of grapes, tossing one into his mouth before offering the bunch to Mia. "You're right," he said, his tone more serious now. "We've both been through a lot over the years. School, jobs, relationships, and no matter what, we've always found our way back here." Mia took a grape and rolled it between her fingers, lost in thought. "It's like this place is a witness to our friendship," she mused. "Every year it sees us grow and change, but it also sees how our bond stays the same." Leo nodded, looking out at the golden hills that had become a familiar sight. "I think that's why this is my favorite day of the year," he admitted. "No matter what's going on, we take this day to pause and just be together. It's like we're pressing pause on life for a moment." They both fell silent, the weight of his words settling over them. It was true. Their lives had become more hectic as they grew older, filled with responsibilities and the ever-present rush of adulthood. Yet, this annual picnic had remained a constant, a small island of tranquility in the sea of change. Mia took a deep breath, feeling the crisp, slightly sweet air fill her lungs. "Do you remember that autumn a few years ago when I was going through a tough time?" she asked quietly. Leo's expression softened, his eyes filled with understanding. "Of course I do. You just lost your job and everything felt uncertain. We sat right here, and you were so quiet, quieter than I'd ever seen you." Mia nodded, a bittersweet smile tugging at her lips. "I was lost. I didn't know what to do next. But you didn't say much. You just sat with me, and that was enough. It was like you knew I didn't need advice or a pep talk. I just needed a friend." "I remember thinking that sometimes words aren't enough," Leo said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Sometimes just being there for someone is the most powerful thing you can do." Mia reached out and squeezed his hand, a gesture filled with unspoken gratitude. "You were right. That day, you helped me more than you'll ever know. It made me realize how lucky I am to have a friend like you, someone who just gets it, without me having to explain." Leo gave her hand a gentle squeeze before letting go, the familiar ease of their friendship bringing a comforting warmth to the moment. "We've been through a lot together," he said, "good times, bad times, and everything in between, and I wouldn't trade any of it for the world." Mia's eyes sparkled with a mixture of happiness and the sting of unshed tears. "Me neither," she said softly. "You've been my rock through so much. It's funny how life can throw so many changes at us, but when I'm here with you, it feels like nothing has changed at all." Leo smiled, leaning back with his hands behind his head. "Maybe that's the magic of friendship," he said thoughtfully. "It can be both a constant and a comfort, no matter how much the world around us changes." They shared a quiet moment, letting the truth of his words sink in. The sun was now beginning its descent behind the hills, casting long shadows across the landscape. The golden hour had arrived, bathing everything in a warm, honey-colored light that seemed to make the whole world glow. As they sat together, the sky painted with streaks of pink and orange, Mia took another sip of her wine and felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. It wasn't just the beauty of the moment or the delicious food that made this day special. It was the simple, profound act of sharing it with someone who had been there through every season of her life. Mia raised her glass once more, her eyes meeting Leo's. "Here's to many more picnics and many more years of friendship," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "To many more," Leo agreed, clinking his glass against hers. As they drank, the taste of the wine seemed richer, the sweetness of the grapes and peaches more vibrant. It was as if the flavors of the harvest had been infused with the memories of every picnic they had shared, every laugh and tear, every moment of quiet understanding. In that instant, everything felt perfect. The two friends, the sunset, the feast before them, it was a moment of pure, unfiltered joy, a reminder of why they had kept this tradition alive for so many years and why it would continue to be a cherished ritual for many more to come. The turning point, a season of change. The last of the sunlight slipped behind the hills, leaving a soft afterglow that painted the sky in shades of purple and deep blue. The valley was bathed in a serene twilight, and a gentle, cooling breeze began to sweep across the knoll. Mia and Leo, now lying side by side on the blanket, stared up at the emerging stars, feeling the quiet stillness of the moment wrap around them like a comforting blanket. Mia broke the silence, her voice barely more than a whisper. "Leo, have you ever thought about what it would be like if things were different between us?" Leo turned his head to look at her, surprised by the sudden shift in her tone. "Different? What do you mean?" Mia hesitated, her fingers absently tracing the pattern of the blanket. "I mean, we've been friends for so long, and I've been thinking a lot lately, especially today, about how much is changing in our lives." Leo propped himself up on one elbow, his expression filled with curiosity and concern. "What's on your mind, Mia?" She took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. "I got a job offer last week. It's in another city, across the country, actually." The words hung in the air between them, as heavy and tangible as the ripest fruit on the vine. Leo's eyes widened in surprise, and for a moment he was silent. "Wow," he finally managed to say, the smile fading from his face. "I didn't know you were looking for something new." "I wasn't," Mia admitted. "It came out of nowhere. A friend from college reached out and said there was an opening that she thought I'd be perfect for. It's a great opportunity, Leo. I'd be moving up in my career doing work that I've always dreamed of," but Leo could sense the hesitation in her voice. He sat up fully now, searching her face. "But what?" Mia looked down, her hands twisting in her lap. "But it would mean leaving everything behind. This town, my family, my life here, and you." The last part of her sentence came out as a whisper, her eyes finally meeting his. Leo felt a pang in his chest, as if the world had shifted beneath him. He hadn't expected this. The thought of Mia leaving had never crossed his mind. Their friendship had always been a constant, an unspoken promise that they would be there for each other no matter what. He forced a smile, though it felt shaky. "Wow, Mia, that's incredible. It sounds like an amazing opportunity. I'm really happy for you." Mia's eyes softened, but there was a sadness in them too. "You don't have to pretend, Leo. I know it's a big change. I'm struggling with it myself. This picnic, this place, it's our tradition. And I can't imagine not being here next year, not sharing this moment with you." Leo swallowed hard, trying to process the idea of her leaving. "When would you have to decide?" "By the end of the month," Mia said, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "They want me to start as soon as possible if I accept." A silence settled between them, heavy and charged with unspoken emotions. The world around them seemed to pause, as if it too were holding its breath, waiting for what would come next. "I don't want to hold you back," Leo finally said, his voice quiet. "You deserve this. You've worked so hard, and you've always dreamed of doing something bigger." Mia reached out and took his hand, her touch warm and familiar. "But I don't want to lose this," she said, her voice breaking slightly. "I don't want to lose us." Leo squeezed her hand, his mind racing. He wanted to say that nothing would change, that their friendship would survive the distance. But he knew that things would be different. He knew that life had a way of altering even the strongest of bonds when physical distance was involved. "I guess this is the part of growing up that no one tells you about," he said with a sad smile. "The part where you have to make choices that might hurt the people you care about." Mia nodded, her eyes filling with tears. I don't want to choose between my career and my best friend. I want both, but I don't know if that's possible. Leo took a deep breath, looking out at the valley one more time, as if trying to imprint this moment in his memory. He turned back to Mia, his eyes filled with a mix of sadness and determination. No matter what you decide, Mia, I want you to know that I'm always going to be here for you, even if we're miles apart, even if we can't have this picnic every year. Our friendship is stronger than any distance. Mia's tears spilled over and she wiped them away with the back of her hand, giving him a watery smile. You've always known exactly what to say, she whispered. That's why I've held on to you for so long. You make everything better. Leo reached over and pulled her into a tight hug. She buried her face in his shoulder, clinging to him as if trying to hold on to the last piece of her life before everything changed. They stayed like that for a long moment, wrapped in each other's arms, feeling the weight of the impending separation, but also the unbreakable bond that had carried them through so many seasons of life. As they pulled away, Mia took a deep breath, wiping her eyes and giving him a determined smile. No matter what happens, I promise we'll always have this, she said, gesturing to the picnic setup, the sunset, the valley below. This moment, this tradition, it's ours, and it always will be. Leo smiled, feeling a sense of peace wash over him. And who knows, he said with a twinkle in his eye, trying to lighten the mood. Maybe next year we'll be having this picnic in a whole new place. You might just have to save me a spot in that city of yours. Mia laughed through her tears, nodding. Maybe I will, she said. Maybe we'll create a new tradition. But for now, let's make the most of this one. They raised their glasses one last time, toasting the unknown future, the changes ahead, and the friendship that had withstood the test of time. As the first stars began to twinkle in the evening sky, they knew that no matter where life took them, the memories of this day, this place, and this bond would remain a constant, a guiding light through all the seasons of change. Thanks for sticking to the end. Thank you for listening to this audiobook by Lara Replica. If you enjoyed the story, consider joining the Mythic Masters Patreon community for just $2 per month. As a supporter, you'll receive 200 exclusive NFTs valued at $170, along with access to additional stories, audiobooks, and content not available anywhere else. Plus, your support helps fund future projects and initiatives. We'd love to have you as part of our growing community. Thank you again for your support.